Our Prophet ﷺ specifically advised us to ask Allah to not be tested. سَلِ اللَّهَ الْعَافِيَةِ اللَّهُمَّ إِنِّي أَسْأَلُكَ الْعَافِيَةِ is a prophetic hadith. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ. We want hasana. We don't want sayyah. We don't want tests. We don't want problems. We don't want ibtila. رَبَّنَا لَا تُحَمِّلْنَا مَا لَا طَاقَتْنَا بِهِ وَاعْفُ عَنَّا. And afiyah, to be safe from tests. So the Quran and the Sunnah is very clear. We don't want extra tests. How then do we resolve this internal contradiction, conundrum, conflict, oxymoron? Response is very simple. You do not want extra tests because you do not know if you will pass the test or fail. What if you fail? Then that's a big problem. Since you don't know, you say, oh Allah, I don't want any tests. Let me live a simple life. But when Allah sends the test and He chooses you, you're not asking, Allah chooses you. When Allah chooses you for a test, when Allah sends down a calamity you have and nobody else has, realize now the game has changed. You did not choose, Allah chose. And when Allah chooses, what does this indicate? It indicates Allah knows you can pass the test. Because you will not be tested more than what you can bear. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. When Allah chooses you for the test, Allah is demonstrating, stamping on your paper, I know you can pass. You might not know you can pass. Allah knows you can pass. You might doubt yourself. I can't do it, I can't do it. No, you can, you will, and you shall. How do you know this? Because you're in the test. And if you were in the test, Allah Azza wa Jal is indicating you can pass the test. Is this clear? The difference between you saying give, give, give versus Allah choosing. You don't want because you don't know. You don't know if the test comes, will I pass or fail? So I'd rather not be tested. But if Allah chooses, then you are guaranteed. Now again, listen to me carefully. When Allah chooses you for a test, Allah knows you can pass the test. Does this mean you will pass the test? No. Allah is simply demonstrating, I know you can pass it. Now you might fail, that's on you. You might turn your back and not do what Allah wants you to do. That's on you. But Allah will not test you with more than what you can bear. رَبَّنَا لَا تُحَمِّلْنَا مَا لَا طَاقَةَ لَنَا بِهِ. Nobody is tested with more than what he or she can bear. Now, whether you pass or fail, that's a separate issue. But you are being tested within your limits. And Allah will test you according to your taqa, your qudra, your capabilities. Okay? So is this clear? This is the first point here. Okay. We now move on to the second point. Understand as well, we learn from the seerah, the second point, that we learn from the seerah that feeling the pain of the test, feeling anxiety, crying, feeling worried is not a sign of weakness of Iman. This is another misconception that many Muslims have. I'm sure many of you have witnessed this with your own eyes, or maybe even it has happened to you, or maybe even, God forbid, you have done this mistake, which is somebody is in pain. They've lost a loved one. You know, their mother has passed away, a child has died, and they're sad, they're crying. And another person comes, they mean good. They want good, but they don't have knowledge. And they say something based upon emotion, not knowledge. And they say, why are you crying? Why are you sad? If you had Iman, you wouldn't be sad. Have you heard something like this in your lives? You experienced something like this? If you had Iman, you wouldn't be crying. And subhanallah, this person who wants to help has actually created more damage they can even imagine. Because not only now has this person who's crying in tragedy, they've lost their mother, they've lost a son or daughter, they're already feeling pain. Now their best friend, their cousin, their brother has certified them, you're a loser in Iman, you don't have Iman. Subhanallah, brothers and sisters, wallahi I say to you, ignorance causes more damage to the ummah than anything else. Ignorant people acting in the name of religion, defending what they think is a religion, doing ridiculous things on behalf of the religion. They don't have ilm. All you need to do is open your eyes and see. Wallahi, I say astaghfirullah, we don't even need enemies. Within ourselves, we cause enough damage to our own faith. A'udhu billah. Subhanallah, ignorance is one of the most dangerous aspects that we have to deal with. And how much damage has been caused by people who think they're defending Islam or doing good, but because of their ignorance, they cause more damage to Islam. And this is one example. This is one example. Now, how do we know that Iman does not prevent sadness? Again, read the seerah. Read the seerah. The Prophet ﷺ, multiple times, the sadness is visible on his face. The grief, the tragedy, the crying is happening. When his last son, Ibrahim, he has a son called Ibrahim, he passed away a year and a half, he's buried in Baqi', Jannatul Baqi', he's buried in Baqi' al-Gharqad. If you enter Baqi' al-Gharqad and you turn left and you walk just 20 meters, you will find a qabr by itself, small qabr. That is the qabr of Ibrahim ibn Muhammad. Ibrahim ibn Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He died at the year of 1.5 years old. Little toddler in his hand. And he was born with asthma, breathing problem. And so they couldn't cure asthma back then. And within a year and a half, he passed away. The hadith is in Sahih Bukhari. Ibrahim was brought to the Prophet ﷺ at the very end, gasping for breath. The doctors basically said that we cannot do anything. And he's in his hand. And he's literally gasping. The hadith describes, literally he's going like this. And the Prophet ﷺ is holding him in his last seconds, last minutes of his life. What happens? The tears begin to flow. His beard becomes wet with tears. And one of the Sahaba, again, innocent, doesn't know any better, but the same mentality. You too, Ya Rasulullah? You too cry? I mean, I thought you should not be crying. Crying? أَوَتَبْكِي أَنْتَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ? You are crying, Ya Rasulullah. In his mind, Iman and crying cannot go together. In his mind, if you have Iman, you will not be sad. If you have Iman, you're not going to feel grief. If you have Iman, somehow you become superhuman. And as your son is dying in your hands, you will not be crying. So then he blurts out, you too, Ya Rasulullah, أَوَتَبْكِي Ya Rasulullah? And listen, and hadith is in Bukhari. البكاء رحمة جعله الله في قلوب عباده. Crying is a sign of Allah's rahmah that He has placed in the hearts of His chosen servants. Crying is a rahmah. How can you not cry and your son is dying? Wallahi, this would be inhumane. Now somebody comes and would say, if you have Iman, you're not going to cry. Read the seerah. Read the seerah.